Welcome to Polishing Marbles. I'm Audrey. In this episode, I discuss the importance of traversing shadow within ourselves in order to create an outer world that reflects that cleared darkness. In times of perceived powerlessness, we are being given an opportunity through the Hermetic Law of Rhythm to know that cycles are ending and also beginning, that all disruptions create momentum. I also bring Osho through for some words of wisdom during this transitional time we're embarking upon as a collective. And I'm here to remind you, you are your own guru. Look to your heart for your own truth, as love will always illuminate your path. Hello. I'm excited to be joining you today. I didn't plan on actually doing a podcast today, in part because I didn't know what was needed to be shared yesterday. But today has offered some different insights. So this podcast is going to be about shadow. And I think that a lot of people hear about shadow in the spiritual community and have a lot of thoughts they want to share and express to everybody around them about shadow. How important it is to look at your shadow, how important it is to process through your shadow. Other people are very intent on not looking at darkness because it contaminates your vibration or whatever. And people, there are some people who feel that holding a certain frequency is their call to be in a higher state, higher vibration, to hold light. And yes, that is fantastic to hold light. I didn't really have a choice in my life except to go into shadow. Like shadow, from day one was introduced to me, truly day one, and not how you'd think. Not how you'd think. When people say that, they're always like trauma, trauma, trauma. And I'm not saying that I haven't, because everybody has had trauma. But what's really unique about my story is that I was raised Pentecostal. But I mean, my mom would say non-denominational Christian, but from my earliest memories, I was basically spoon-fed on the apocalypse and end of days and the Antichrist and spiritual warfare and. So I don't actually remember a time in my life where there was an illusion that things were pretty, I guess, that we're in a realm that it has a lot of light and it has a lot of dark. And it actually took me until my Kundalini awakening to really understand that more in depth in terms of how that works in the structure of the existence we are presently living in. I'm not trying to be cryptic here, but this is just an introduction. This is just an introduction before I delve into today. It's so interesting because I am so prone to traversing shadow. I often forget that people are uncomfortable with it. I'm always shocked when people shy away from it. And in part because I've always wanted to understand the shadow. I've always wanted to, that's why I became a therapist, I'm like, why are people acting this way? Why are people so wounded? What makes them wounded? What makes them behave in ways that are unkind to each other? How do we like dig that out and get to the source of it? Kind of like clearing out a wound. If you just put Band-Aid over Band-Aid over Band-Aid on a wound, but you don't dig out the infection, you are not going to heal that wound. That is not going to happen. It's just going to keep erupting. And, I did have 3 near-death experiences in 2005, 2 of which were episodes of sepsis. So my second episode of sepsis that nearly killed me was because the first one didn't get to that true infection. It just calmed it down for a little bit. And so I think this is really interesting in a mirror of things because we can cover up problems that exist individually or collectively. We can cover those up, or we can dig in deeper to see the darkness, swim around in it, and actually see what's the root of it, and then clear that out. And I think everybody's getting an opportunity, if they so choose, to dig into that within themselves and the collective right now, which I think I get excited. I get excited. I remember when Trump was elected last time, I was working as a behavioralist at cardiac and pulmonary rehab, where all of my patients that I worked with were older white guys that were wearing their Trump hats, and they were so excited that he was elected. But every person on staff was liberal, basically, and it was like a rough day for all of us. And I wasn't awake yet, and so I was just like barely functioning that day. I was like, the world is over. But then there was something that happened. There was like a shift for me, still prior to my Kundalini awakening, where I got a little excited. I got a little excited because I was like, oh, wait, things aren't going to stay the same. I'm used to a certain status quo, but things aren't going to stay the same. And I mean, COVID happened like not long after that. And so we all got a real good taste uh, of what that looked like for all of us. I mean, not that long. My point is, when change is forced upon a situation, it's no longer going to be stagnant. If there's a dam that breaks and there was still swamp water, it's going to actually wash everything away. That was like ooky, that was like breeding mosquitoes and disease. Things are going to move. Did the dam cause destruction when it broke? Absolutely, it did. It disrupted every single living being in that waterway and everyone that used that waterway. It was disrupted, but it did move. So, what's the point to all this? I do have an outline. This is just my introduction. This podcast is going to be about shadow. It's going to be about shadow because shadow is really important to talk to. Things that make us uncomfortable are important to face. One of the reasons I left my field was that I found that most people that I was seeing, knowing that in therapy, you are to talk about the dark shit, right? You're going to talk about the dark things. You're going to have a witness that witnesses you unconditionally and is going to allow you to be in a safe space where you can share those things, which I always provided. But there was a moment when I noticed collectively that people were being drawn toward covering up their discomfort with medication, and that any element of discomfort needed to be medicated. I'd have people on medications for long periods of time. I wasn't a psychiatrist, so I didn't prescribe them, but they would work with a provider that would prescribe medications. And truly, if there was a disruption in their mood for a day, they would get a medication change because they couldn't handle the difficulty of the shift in their emotion. Nothing stays the same. Everything moves, everything vibrates, including us. We're going to change the way we experience ourselves, and our emotion running through our body is going to be felt. But there's been a collective, I don't know, kind of is a trend the right word, of people being unable to tolerate it. It's distress intolerance, to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. But like if you hurt yourself and you're in pain, that lets you know it needs attention. To cover up the pain is to actually continue to be wounded and not treat the pain. So it became impossible for me to support avoidance of of discomfort because that means you're not getting well. And I want people to be well, which is why I'm doing this now. So with that being said, I wanted to like start by pulling a card because I really love the whimsical nature of pulling cards. It's like it was my gateway into practice. It was my first Aquarian tarot deck in what was it, 1997? And so today I have the Kim Kranz archetype deck. Two fell out. Okay. I I could tell you what the general meaning is of these for sure because I'm most familiar with this deck, but these two cards that fell out on the ground feel very significant. So I'm going to definitely read the short little bit here. First, we've got the ocean card. Um, I I always think of that card because they're symbolic cards. Um, so they have like the art is really significant. So if you can see, if you're watching this instead of listening to it, they're like there's an as above, so below situation happening here. Love correspondence. Um, so when this card is in a state of light, deeper than deep, big dreams and discovery, and when it's dark, subsumed, drowned, polluted, and unpredictable. Interesting. To go deeper, look at Shakespeare's The Tempest and Gericolt's The Raft of Medusa. The ocean displays every emotion without shame. Holy crap. I was just talking about that. To witness its glassy moonlit surface and its unforgiving storms is to know the full spectrum of the human experience. Okay, I did not this fell on the floor, you guys. I didn't make this up. Steady waves touch their surface, get in the water, no matter where you live, each drop is part of the whole. The ocean is in every tear. So the ocean, this is the meaning itself, the unconscious, the depths, the incomprehensible. The power of the ocean is unmatched. To step into its salty waters is to step into the unknown. By its sheer volume, the ocean represents the unconscious, all that is beyond our understanding. We cannot live within the ocean. We cannot claim it, manage it, or own it. It rejects our every attempt to dominate nature. Yet amid its overwhelming power, it calls to us, inspires us, and invigorates our life on land. It dissolves the little us into the big us. When the energy of the ocean is present, there is change stirring that is beyond any change you've known before. Interesting. The ego must dissolve. The saline swells work on your very cells, your fibers, your deepest underlying beliefs. Like Aphrodite, we rise from the ocean's froth, a new being. Life is change. Let the waves crash. If I had handpicked a card, I couldn't have handpicked a better card than that one. That is just beyond, beyond. That is saying you are going to be subsumed. Allow yourself to have this cleansing energy wash over you and experience all that is to experience. That's absolutely beautiful. And I'm so curious. This next card, when I get this card, I often think of it as like, oh, damn. Like in tarot, when someone gets, the Three of Swords or the Hanged Man or the Tower, they're like, oh, crap. This is one of those that when I pull this card, I feel like, oh, crap. But this makes sense, though. I'd like to point out, so this is the Bardo. The card is the Bardo, but look at how it actually matches these cards. This card here, for those of you listening, it looks like an iris of an eye. These two together is uncanny because just so you know, all cards do not look like this. All cards do not have eyes on them. Um, there's all sorts of different cards, and you can see they don't have eyes on them. But these cards both have the iris of an eye. That is incredible. I have tingles on my body. Okay, so this is the Bardo card. It's an image of an eyeball, basically like the iris, and it's got skulls all around it. Okay. So when it's in a state of light, it's spaciousness, grace, forgiveness, and truth. And when it's dark, torment, dislocation, hallucination, and transience. If you wish to go deeper, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Lament of the Dead by James Hillman and Sanu Shamdasani. I was trying not to butcher that name. When the veil between this life and the next is thinned, energy is stirred. This allows for remarkable healing and vision. The Bardo is not to be feared. Take advantage of its energy by recognizing what needs to be resolved. Trust that there is a message for you from beyond who is speaking. Go ahead and listen. Now, the meaning of the card is the liminal, the in-between, and the transition. Yes, yes, this is the in-between. It is said that the Bardo is a place between this life and the next, a liminal realm through which souls pass. Envisioning this inherently mysterious space creates the potential for us to rise above the concerns of this world and see our relationship through a cosmic and timeless lens. We may receive messages from those who are no longer with us or see visions of lives not yet lived. The Bardo is there as potential to forgive the unforgivable, to say the unsaid, to see the unseen, to love the unloved, to let go of all the things that cause us pain. The Bardo suspends us in its spaciousness for just long enough to open us to higher wisdom. Its energy does not belong to Earth as we know it, but rather to the cosmic network of which we are a single thread. I, again, could not echo this more with what I'm saying today. Look at this. We are between two realms, and this is that. The third, basically, in the center, the above and below. Wow. This is beautiful. So, that in mind, I'd like to say that shadow for me, because I'm so comfortable with it, I was having a chat with my friend Gina last night, and we're both really comfortable with shadow. We've had past lives working in the dark. We chose the dark in other lives. This is not one of those lives. But traversing realms in all vibratory states has been kind of my mastery in this life, is to be able to delve deep and dark, and then also connect to the angelic central source, Sophia Dragon realms. Like I can go to all of them. I'm comfortable in all of them. I feel that for myself, one of the biggest challenges I've had during this period of time of that liminal space is the waiting for what's coming, what's coming, what's coming, when's it going to happen, when's it, you know? And so any momentum for me is really exciting because I know that things are moving. And that's what these cards were saying. Something is moving. We are moving. We are moving forward. And it's important to not get hung up on good or bad. One of my brilliant friends, Greta, we were on a trip this summer, a bunch of my close friends doing some grid work in the Hoh Rainforest in Washington, which was, if you want to connect to incredible indigenous and prehistoric energies and divine feminine energies and see gorgeous water that doesn't even make sense why it's that color, definitely go there. We were anchoring in some healing frequencies for Gaia there. And my dear friend Greta, she was saying, when we're in a vibratory frequency that is high enough, we're like the trees. The trees are in the forest. There's a drama that's playing out in the forest. There can be the hunter and the hunted. There's the wolf and the deer. There, there are these opposing ends that we see as light and dark. But if you're the tree, if you're in the tree, if you are the tree, if you are grounded, if your roots are strong and you go high in the air, you are able to look down on the drama that is happening without being in it. Like you're not in that fight between the wolf and the deer. You're not either. You are just an observer in that forest with which that game is being played. And I would encourage everyone to really question where they're at in that forest scenario. Like, are you feeling hunted? Are you feeling like the hunter? Or are you that stable space in the middle that is that pillar that cannot be moved? It's really the eye of the storm. And so as momentum amps up for change that is inevitable, you are going to be one of these players. And I am going to be the tree myself. I'm going to be the tree and I'm going to be watching it play out. And I've been given opportunity to see a lot of things because of the connections that I hold, some of which I will share today. Some of which, not all of it, because not everybody's ready for it, but I will share some of that. So that in mind, I'm going to transition to talking about vibratory frequencies. As everybody who knows me knows that I'm kind of stuck on the law of vibration. The law of vibration being one of the 7 laws of the universe that are known as Hermetic laws. They are listed in the Emerald tablets, which are very, very old, from ancient Egypt. One could say Atlantis, said to be written by the ancient Egyptian god Thoth. That have been kind of re-emanated through the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, as well, and then more recently by the 3 initiates in what's known as the Kabbalion in the early 1900s. It was kind of simplified into writings. The Hermes portion is called, you can purchase the Hermeticum, which is very poetic, or the Corpus Hermeticum I enjoy even more. That being said, the laws of the universe, there are 7 laws about how you like traverse this realm successfully. I have a course on it on my site that I've spent the past several, like all of the years I've spent since my Kundalini awakening. It was my entryway into my path, was the Hermetic principles. And so it's my opus. I have that course for sale. It is the most beautiful thing I've created besides my daughter and my book that is going to be published hopefully this coming year. Spirit keeps teasing me. It's been ready to go for 2 years, and Spirit's like, not yet, not yet. But so the law of vibration is basically like, I want you to imagine, like, if you don't know what a toral field is, imagine one. No. So it's a donut shape of energy. It's basically like everybody has seen what it looks like. Like the earth has this kind of electric bubble that goes around it, like a donut that goes in and out and in and out. And that's how, like, sometimes we get aurora lights or whatever, northern lights, is because there's an electromagnetic frequency that changes in its intensity in this toral field that's going around. We also have an energetic toral field. Everyone does, because of the heart rhythm that we hold. So we have this toral field basically. And you can think of it in terms of just like there's a central source of power. We have our hearts, and it goes around and around and around like a donut. Okay. That is, in essence, how all of this works. The central part would be like source frequency, the God source frequency. However you define God, the central point of that is where the heart is, of creation. Creation comes from love. And so we are all expressions of that kind of burst out into this toral field for source. And we're little pieces of that. So the central point is love. And the farther we are from source, love, we enter chaos. So we have order near the heart. And the farthest we get from the heart is going to be chaos. But this is a cycle. In the Hermetic principles, it's known as the law of rhythm. Things cycle in and out, like our seasons, like the woman's cycle, like the cycle of life. Everything is going in and out of a cycle all the time. What has driven me crazy is I use those words, so funny. Working in mental health all these years was that people that had been defined as bipolar because they were cycling, it's because they were cycling, because we are intended to cycle, and those can be distorted. Those cycles can be distorted, which could show up how people describe bipolar disorder, or in a healed way, those cycles are just incredible insights that are going from order to chaos. And it's like a contraction. It's like a heartbeat going in and out. We are that, right? So what people are thinking of right now is they're like, oh shit, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. People are worried about rights. They're worried about all sorts of things. Why are they worried about that? Because they're being told that those things are being threatened. I'm not saying that that's not a valid concern. I'm not saying that people's feelings aren't important. Like I have said before, feelings are important. Do feel them. Do not dull them. Feel them. But I want you to know, because we as an Earth, as a planet, in our solar system, in our galaxy, in our universe, all of these expressions are mirrors in big and small ways of creation. We're fractals of a larger creation that are expressed in numerous ways. Law of correspondence. And all of these have a different cycle. The cell life, the cycle of a cell is different than the cycle of a lifespan of a dog. I personally don't think it's fair that dogs live as long as they do, though. My friend Chris always says they have that short of a lifespan, so we have the opportunity to love a new dog. That hurts my soul. I think they should live longer. But their lifespan, their life cycle is shorter than ours, which is different than the life cycle of a fly or the life cycle of an elephant or a tortoise. We all express differently in the life cycle of a star, a planet, a galaxy, right? They're all mirrors. So right now in our cycle as a planet, we went from the creation, which was ordered, and now we're on this end of chaos. I'll tell you how I know, and I'm going to say uncomfortable things here. So if you're prone to being uncomfortable, A, I don't know why you're listening to me at all, but B, I'm going to say uncomfortable things. If you were to take a mirror and smash it in the middle, there would be fractured reflections of yourself as you look into it. You'd see kind of an outline of who you are, but it would look really distorted. Like the intention of human connection with our, let's say, the technology that exists in our body, the way our bodies are just miraculous machines that heal itself, that can do freaking anything. Not to mention the technology of Kundalini to make us awaken to our godhood. we are extraordinary beings, and the intention of that experience of being a human being was to be able to physically engage in creation and co-creation with our planet through creative means to create beautiful realities. And we could do this with our creation energy, which is, in essence, our Kundalini, our sexual energy. What is a distortion of beauty through that creation? What would that distortion be? Like the perfect unity of masculine and feminine frequencies to create something, which does not mean man and woman. I'm saying frequencies, expressive and receptive energies in perfect balance to create something. What is the biggest distortion you can conceive of that? Well, first of all, taking away the power of a divine feminine as the creator and portal to life, taking away her autonomy, taking away her own connection to her own cycles, her own magic, her own intuition, to become hyper logical about anything and to believe that things that you cannot see are not real, to vilify and make the villain of women who are connected to the unseen and call them crazy, to create a world in which women are not only intended to take care of their homes, but to also work full time and also have these badass careers and also children, and are riddled with chronic pain and autoimmune disease from overworking and still having no idea about their divinity. That could be to make sexual relationships not only inequitable, but extraordinarily violent, depicted in culture, in media, to make it so it's normalized for a woman simply trying to connect to a potential partner to get a picture of a penis without even knowing a person's last name. That's a distortion. That is an absolute distortion of the beauty of creation energy through the feminine lens. And to take that farther, what is the ultimate distortion? What has come to light more recently in our world, what the hidden and now revealed aspects of involving human trafficking and the trafficking of children, that would be perhaps the most horrific thing that could exist within that energy. That is the broken mirror. That is the absolute chaos from source. That is as far away as you can get, right? This is not intended to be like oh shit, it's all gone to hell. Get me a bottle of tequila, I'm out of here. Like, no. This is to let you know that this is a cycle. We are at the greatest distortion. We are at the greatest distortion right now. One thing I always used to tell patients who were in their like manic cycle and they would feel, really good and they'd be really productive and they'd be like doing crazy new exciting things. I'd be like, okay, so we know that this cycle is going to end soon. What is your plan for when it crashes? And they'd be like, no, it's not going to end. It's going to be great. They inevitably crash because the law of polarity, things are going to swing one way and the other, right? So this is not only a rhythm, but this is a cycle that is polarity. So the greatest darkness will eventually become the greatest light, and the greatest light will become the greatest darkness. Why am I excited right now? Why on earth could I be so excited right now? When all seems chaotic and horrible and ugly. I'm excited because of these laws. These laws tell me exactly what's going to happen. These laws, which are absolutely infallible, are playing out before us right now. I don't like waiting. I don't like to know like something's happening and then just have to wait for the shoe to drop. I'm excited the shoe is dropped. I'm excited for momentum. I'm excited for the chaos to come back into order. But sometimes that does not look pretty. It doesn't. When you are about to give birth and you're in labor and there is something new that is coming out of you, it feels like you're going to die. It feels like, okay, I'm being ripped in half. I am going to be dead in moments. I will never raise this child because this child will have a dead mother. It feels like everything is ending. And that is the moment when something bursts through into new creation. That's why I'm excited. But what do you do about that? What do you do about that, knowing that? I mean, even if you're just like swept up in narratives that you're taking in, if you're on social media and people are like, "Oh my God, I'm going to kill myself or move from the country or whatever." You get swept up in those narratives because they're vibrations, and so they tune your body, and then you feel this vibratory frequency of chaos, and you're like, "Oh shit, what do I do?" What do you do? What is helpful for you right now? You're asking me, Audrey, what do I do about all this? This is great that you're saying all this, but what do I do? Let me tell you, you get to decide what you do. I am just going to offer some insights about this. So, through the law of correspondence, which is as above, so below, as within, so without, everything matches inside and outside. So, let's say if you've got depression, your house may be messy because your insides feel messy. That will be mirrored on your outside, the law of correspondence. Our outside world is messy and has a lot of shadow. And we also are messy and have a lot of shadows that haven't been exposed because we've been taught not to feel our feelings, express our feelings, process our feelings, share our deepest, darkest things. So when things get shoved in and they're hidden and they have no room to be seen and heard and expressed, they ferment and get distorted. I was wondering, like, what was it, like a year and a half, 2 years ago? I was thinking about why is it that cults, like hyper religious cults, always have like some creepy child molester in them? Well, I'll tell you why. Spirit told me, it was like, okay, so if you actually teach that sexual creation energy that we are all designed with is sinful, if that's being perpetuated in teaching and you're trying to push that down, it's basically like creating an infectious mold of distortion. So what is like a pure sexual energy is then distorted and gets gross and then pops and expresses itself in the most distorted way. As I was talking before, like that broken mirror. It goes from this pure place upon our birth that we are intended to live in a place that will support us into becoming our own creators. And when we're not allowed to be those things, it gets distorted, and then we create distorted things. Our insides match our outsides. Our outer world has a lot of secrets that are being exposed. We are also getting the opportunity to look at our own personal shadows, unearthing them, looking at them, clearing out those infected aspects of our own character, healing them, loving them, accepting them, talking to our inner child, talking to our inner teenager, talking to our lineage, our ancestral lineage of traumas and darkness that we didn't even intend to inherit, that are coded in our DNA, to clear those things. Doing that work and looking at the deepest, darkest, most disgusting aspects of the shadow within ourselves and others in our world is clearing out what needs cleared, which is happening in our external lives, right? So what can you do about this? You can absolutely work on this shadow aspect of yourself. What's coming up for you? Like if you're distressed today and you're distressed about, oh God, my rights as a woman are going to be taken away and we're going to live in the Handmaid's Tale. Okay. So that's bringing up your shadows around powerlessness and fear, which is the opposite of love. It's bringing up probably a lot of ancestral trauma of women in your lineage. It's probably bringing up a witch wound of having your power taken away, right? Those are all shadows. You're responding viscerally to this because these are shadows that are inside of you. Pull those out, pull them out, take a really good look at them, and then love the shit out of them. Thank you for trying to protect me from this current world I'm living in. Fear is not going to serve me right now. So I'm going to love you, this fear of mine. I'm going to love you. Thank you for trying to protect me by making me feel this way. I very much want to write a new code for my body and my energetic grid, my spirit. I want to anchor in a different story to this timeline on this planet right now. And that's going to be of empowerment. So it feels hard that you could potentially be empowered during this time that feels disempowering. But we have to go into the shadow. We have to go into the shadow in order to put light on it and realize that it's not as scary as we thought. We just need to shine the light on it so it's unearthed. Whatever emotion makes you feel like you want to throw up is one you need to look at closer. If you think it's going to kill you, and most of my patients thought that, like, if I start feeling, I won't be able to stop. And what if I can't handle it? And what if it makes me want to feel suicidal? And what if I can't stop myself from hurting myself? And what if I kill myself? Okay, well, first of all, it sounds like you don't actually want to kill yourself because of all of those things that just came up. Second of all, you're not alone. You're not alone. If you're afraid to feel those feelings and you don't know if you're safe to feel them, you have people. Maybe you have friends that also understand how you feel, and you be like, "Girl, I'm dealing with some shadow right now. Can you talk? Can you have coffee right now? We could share a glass of wine. We could have some nachos because even though a lot of the food here is crap, some of it is just comforting, and that is the way to go. Call a friend. And maybe that friend is an old movie you've seen 100 times. I know that when I'm feeling low and sad and I'm in the midst of shadow, I pull out Doris Day. I will. Or I was watching the OC. Remember that show? The OC. It's like the cheesiest teen California drama you can think of. I love that show. The writing is impeccable, and sometimes it just allows you to release. That could be your friend. If you can't think of someone to share with, you're not alone. Take breaks from shadow when you need to. Ask spirit for help. Spirit is always there. You have an entire team. You have an entire team of guides and ancestors, and you've got angelics and elementals. And even if you can't see them and you're like, Audrey, I don't have that ability to connect to these beings that are like on my support team. Are they really on my support team? There are lots of things you can't see and hear that are around you, including including the atoms in the air. Most things are empty space. We're in a plasma realm. There's an entire grid that is around us that we don't see with our eyeballs every day. Lots of things we don't see are around us. This is a matter of trust. This is a matter of trust, but help won't necessarily be given unless you ask for it. That's one thing I have learned the hard way. I could be miserable. I could be physically experiencing an actual disaster of like an upgrade or a detox or a something. And I'm just like miserable. And I realize, oh, I could ask for help to calibrate these energies in my body and I'll feel better. And then I do. And then I'm better. And I'm like, why was I suffering? You don't have to see the things to know that they're there for you. You don't have to. They are there for you. So ask for help. If things feel too big, ask for your star family, your guides, whomever, your ancestors to help you calibrate it to your body and to turn down the intensity of it. Sometimes when I'm going into shadow, I actually, and this is a great recommendation, is I will say, okay, I know I'm about to embark on a thing, but I am setting the intention that I'm not going to physically or emotionally feel a vibration that is below neutral as I go into this. Oh my gosh, it worked. It totally worked. I set the intention. Neutral or above is what I'm shooting for. I can observe the rest, but I'm not going to feel it. Set that intention if that feels like a good idea for you. So, to all of this, I'm saying it's going to be okay. Do not be afraid of the shadow. The shadow is there to be unearthed in order that you can shine light on it to go back to the source of the love frequency, which is the heart. We have to go back to the heart. So if you want to see that on your outer world, you have to do it yourself. Shine the light on what needs cleared out and come back to your heart. One of my dear friends, Shayna, um, through ceremony, she shared with me a beautiful mantra that is about its heart opening. And it goes gate gate paragate, parasam gate buddhisvaha. Oh, that gave me chills. And to say that 108 times allows for this absolute pure state of heart coherence. Gate gate paragate, parasam gate buddhisvaha. That 108 times. And it's something you can actually look up on Spotify. Just like do gate gate mantra, and it's spelled like gate. Gate gate. And then all these recordings will come up where you can actually be led through it 108 times. But by the end of that, you may actually start choke sobbing in the middle of it. Like I have every time I've like started a period of heart opening and I go into the gate gate chant, I will start choke sobbing and sometimes my chest will hurt and I'll feel like I'm having a panic attack because my heart's been closed. And as it opens, it's sometimes uncomfortable and then you can't breathe very well, but opening it is so much better. So as you're going through shadow, try to center back in your heart as much as possible. I'm going to say it one more time. Gate gate paragate parasam gate buddhisvaha. Open your heart. It will match in your outer world as you continue to work on your own frequency into love, from chaos to order. If there is stuff in your house, I'm also speaking to myself, that is needing cleared out, organized, put from disorder to order. Remember, your outsides and your insides match. This is what you can do right now. You can't change politics and laws at this moment, but you absolutely can take your own world from chaos into order. Your feelings are okay to feel. They're absolutely okay to feel. In fact, I another friend of mine, Chris, back when we were young, roommates, we were like 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old, I think, is when she said that there was something called international rules because she went to Mexico. And when she got back from Mexico, she said, in Mexico, I experienced what I am calling international rules, which means time, calories, food, everything. It's just off the rails. They don't count for normal time. So you could like drink a beer at 1 p.m. or, you know, make out with someone that you just met. It's just like the what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas kind of thing. I'm not saying go dark, but I'm saying if you need to take some time to just like have some international rules and feel your feelings, you do that. That is okay. You can also Go into chaos. That is your will. That is what you can do. There is no bad here. But try to bring it back into order and try to bring it back into your heart. And that is what you can do right now. Your panic and fear does not assist in this in this ascension process, but the shadow isn't bad either. Feel what you're feeling, but bring it back into the heart. If you're in chaos, feel the chaos, bring it back into the heart. Do your own cycle. It's okay. And I have a lot more to share. I think I'll make this a part one and I'll go into a part two because Osho did share some things with me yesterday about white hats that I think are of interest probably to a couple people. So I'm gonna likely split this up into a two-part series at least, but I am going to finish this podcast by just sharing a couple of events I have coming up, after which I will channel a message from Osho, okay? All right, so I just had my grid work meeting a couple days ago, which was extraordinary. We were anchoring in light and peace into the planet, which was in anticipation of the election. And then my next event, because I'm leaving for grid working, my third grid working trip of the month to Sedona for the 1111 portal in 2 days. When I return from that, it'll be, let's see, it'll be 4 days after I return. I'm doing a Down the Rabbit Hole event, which is my event where I take a nerdy spiritual thing or esoteric thing, and then I dive deep into it, like major nerdy stuff. Last time it was around the season of the witch and what that means. And this month I have been called to talk about alchemy, which is a very, very, very like intense subject. Actually, this entire first row of my bookshelf is all on alchemy. And alchemy is transforming something from one thing into another thing. So you start with lead, and the idea is to take it into gold. Now, these can be metaphorical or literal. It's what is known as the elixir of life, eternal life, the sorcerer's stone. We've all heard about that through Harry Potter. That is an actual thing. So when you think of like ancient studies and you see like weird old prints of art that are very, very symbolic, and you're like, this might be some satanic shit here. No, it's usually alchemy, and it's just very coded. And alchemy also is in alignment with Hermetic principles. So um my next event after that, so that's on November 16th. My next one is I actually started from that first Down the Rabbit Hole event about the season of the witch. I decided to start a witch group called Awaken the Witch, and that's for both men and women. It's for anyone who's wanting to be awakened to the old ways. And so last time I went into some elements and how those are utilized in kind of harnessing the power to bring in the power of our own divinity and to create our own reality through what's traditionally known as witchcraft and the light and the dark of it. And this one is going to be, I'm going to go into some herbalism because I've been going through my herbalism initiation, and I am just getting like echoes and echoes and echoes of coming back into the old knowledge and the old ways. As we are transitioning into new earth, we're going to need to be in more harmony with that, and a lot, just like everything we need exists in nature, including medicines. So my last event for this month is going to be on November 29th, and that's my live Ask Osho event. And that is where, like, when you register for that event, you get to ask a question to Osho. And so I will try to plow through as many questions as possible. And for those that I'm not able to answer during that event, I will squirrel away and answer at the end of podcast episodes over time. Lastly, just a reminder of my Laws of the Universe class. It goes through the 7 laws of the universe, the Hermetic principles, but not in a traditional kind of course way. I've got a soundtrack. I've got like story time. I've got something called breadcrumbs where I take you out into nature and apply the laws of the universe to what I'm experiencing in nature with you. I give you challenges. You get certificates of achievement. It is such a robust and beautiful course, and I spoke to the spirit of the course to create it. So it is, gosh, I don't know. It's probably over 30 hours at this point or something worth of content. My favorite part as a nerd is just like, I love the soundtrack. It's so good. So it also has payment plans for that as well. And I think from there, I'm going to transition into Osho. And let's see, I feel like he would like to bring through. Yeah, I'm not going to answer one of the old questions today. I'm just going to bring through a message from Osho. He did bring me a message I'm going to share in part two around the white hats, because I feel like that's worthy of making its own um, little podcast episode. So I'm going to connect to Osho now and see what he has to bring through for you today. There's a great excitement that is felt amongst all interdimensionals at this time as we're approaching a time and space. It's an intersection, in fact, of astrology that has been perfectly planned. It's much like he's showing me when I was in elementary school that people would play like double dutch or whatever with jump ropes. And the timing has to be perfect to be able to jump into those double dutch ropes, or you'll tangle up all the ropes. He's saying the timing has now become perfect for what is for the he's showing me the feet of the person going skip, 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 skip. It's a rhythm. This is allowing a new frequency to take, it's a pattern change. Wow, it's all jump ropes. He's showing me how there are people who are so skilled in this type of jump rope or double dutch that they can actually like change rhythms mid-air. And there's like a perfect harmony that is experienced between the people that are on both ends of the jump rope and the person who's jumping, as well as other people who enter to also jump. So it can be an entirely choreographed, beautiful routine that changes from what we think is one rhythm into another rhythm, and that is shifting now. We're going into another rhythm. Something new is entering the space. There is another player that is in the space, and that is through extra dimensional support. It's like, okay, he's showing me like if you were to have a property and there's like a wild kitten, it's feral, and you really, really, really want to make friends with the kitten, and you leave some food out for it. And as you approach it, it scurries away. And you leave it a little bit closer, and you just watch as it comes closer and it eats a little food. And as you approach it, it scurries away. Over this period of time, like a couple of weeks, months, whatever, over time, the kitten will realize it doesn't need to be afraid of you. And it will allow you to come a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer until you're actually able to like pet the cat. We are the feral cats in this scenario as humanity, and there's we are being offered assistance. And I'm seeing this is all galactic. The galactic assistance is being brought in due to the timing and the pattern and the rhythm that we are in. The timing is intersected perfectly for this assistance to begin. And we are, as a collective, not yet sure that that is something that we are willing to or is safe to receive from. But I'm seeing, like, my grandma used to have feral cats out on her farm property in rural Idaho, and she just had all these like old metal pie pans full of like meow mix to feed them. And very rarely they would come close to her, but she just offered them love and nourishment no matter what. She didn't want them to starve and be alone. And I'm seeing that so far we've just had those pie pans occasionally laid out for us, but we haven't engaged. And we are going to start engagement as we are coming closer, like our separation is being diminished. I'm really surprised. I didn't know this would be about extra dimensionals. He's like, I am. Why did you think I wouldn't talk about that? But it's a vibrational frequency that allows the connection of this slow relationship to be built. At first, the feral cat believes that the person leaving the food is poisoned the food, or it's going to try to trap us and injure us or something, but it's not. Like the intention of the person leaving the food or the being leaving the food was always to assist, so that the cat would know that it wasn't actually needing to suffer as much as it was. Wow, that makes me really sad because it reminds me my cat Pancakes, ironically named after a rabbit in the show The OC I was just talking about, who is a lab rabbit and rescued from being the lab rabbit who's the color of pancakes. So I adopted my cat as a foster kitten that was teeny tiny, and she's the color of pancakes. And I had her for about 8 years before she let me hold her. And she was like really this big when I got her. So you'd think that I could have raised her to be trusting and loving, but she just like clawed up my furniture and she wouldn't let me pet her. She bit me. But then when COVID happened and I was home all the time, I was doing sessions with patients on my computer. She slowly started jumping on my lap. And then the first time she purred, she started choking on her own saliva because started drooling. And so the purring, she didn't know how to purr and breathe at the same time. And it was really disruptive to her. Like she had been abused or something. She had never been abused, but she didn't know how to receive love. And when she started to, it was really, really uncomfortable. And after a while, she's like, this isn't that half bad. I like it. I like it a lot. And so, yeah, I'm just seeing that that's what is on the way for us. And so, with that in mind, bringing ourselves back into the heart and being able to receive love and to not be in fear just has to be the theme for us to focus on right now. So, I'm interested in your thoughts and your feelings. Um, and there will be a part two to this. Take care of yourself. Go into your heart. Goodbye.